Welcome to the OC20, a love letter to the OC in celebration of its 20th anniversary. We're your hosts, Michelle and Seth, and if you're just tuning in, we highly recommend you start with our intro episode and then continue on your listen. Okay, so we're discussing Kirsten Cohen, portrayed by Kelly Rowan. I'm so happy we're doing an episode on Kirsten because I think maybe, not that she's not well loved, but when we're only doing a couple of episodes, you would think you'd want to talk about like the main players.
Sure.
And even Sandy.
Sure.
So we're giving Kirsten a little spotlight, but why Kirsten?
Yeah, so when I looked at, I like to balance things out, right?
Yeah.
And so if I look at which characters I'm picking, is it all men or is it all the women or is it all the... And so I wanted to talk about at least one of the adults. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was like, oh, Sandy, obviously.
No brainer, right?
But then I really thought about it and I was like, but you know what? I feel like Sandy is, and nothing against Sandy, I feel like he's much more simple than Kirsten and what Kirsten's going through in the season. Sandy has a few temptations to his virtuous nature, right? One with his coworker, one with leaving the public defender's office. He's got a lot of frustrations, but Sandy's like just so upbeat. I love Sandy, but to me, Kirsten goes through a lot more, and she is very much in the background. She's very plain when we compare her to like Julie, right? Like Julie's wearing like the bright tracksuits and her makeup is much more done. Kirsten is much more understated in how she looks. And Kirsten, she's like so instrumental to some of the big gears turning in the show, but you just kind of overlook her. And that's a lot of the times like the story of a mom. Mm-hmm. The mom is often the thing that propels everything in the family's life forward. And she's like the last to eat dinner and she's, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So Kirsten, I think really does a good job of personifying that in the story. And I just love her. Like, I was really surprised by her in the first episode when we first meet her. She's really unhappy that Sandy has like brought this kid home, somewhat understandably.
Totally.
And the way that she's talking at first is exactly how you would expect a character like her to be responding. She's suspicious. She thinks that he's there to steal from them. And you think like, okay, this is her arc. This is what she's going to be going through in this season. And it's going to be a long road to accepting Ryan as her son. No. Literally turns around, walks out, and Sandy's like, where are you going? And she's like, well, he's going to need bedsheets. And so she immediately, I think she still has some of those reservations, but she does the right thing.
Yeah.
So Kirsten, she has her feet in two different worlds through Mary and Sandy because she's raised by Caleb to be successful, and she is. So she has not just survived under Caleb, but she's actually thrived under Caleb, and she has adopted some of what he does in order to be able to give someone $100,000 on a whim.
And their husband to not even know.
Right. But Sandy is the difference in her life between her being Caleb and her being Kirsten.
Right.
And I don't think that Sandy changed her, but I think that with Sandy in her life, it brings alive in her humanity, where Caleb's is just dead. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went away and met at college.
Yeah.
Lived out of a mail truck.
Yes.
Which is something that is referenced throughout the series as it goes on. For me, I really, I guess, loved Kirsten. She clicked for me as a character in episode 3, The Gamble.
Okay.
Which is the casino night episode. And when Dawn comes back, who's
Yep.
Ryan's mother, and then we have that whole situation, which you sent me a comment or you sent me a text and you were like, Ryan's mom gets drunk at casino night, please. What did you mean by that?
Here's what I meant by that. It's casino night. Who cares? It's not like the opera. It's not like a christening. It's casino night. Everyone's gambling and drinking.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's
A scene occurs.
Well, a scene occurs, but it's still a casino night.
I guess
It's not
so.
at the hospital as their baby's being delivered.
Which
like,
I noticed last night when I was watching it. When Dawn falls over,
Mhm.
she trips, and the waiter goes down the table, whatever. Luke is the one to help pick up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Luke
yeah,
runs in there. Anyway, just another
great.
nod to
Yeah,
Luke.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, but Kirsten, to me, is when she comes to light.
Hmm.
And especially when Dawn is trying to sneak out and says, I can't do this.
Right.
I can't be like, what pressure? No big deal. He's your problem now, Kirsten. And she's like, Ryan's going to stay with us now.
Yeah.
I could cry thinking about it.
I think in her heart, he already was.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of the second episode, she says to Sandy, how could a mother abandon her child?
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, she is already like, Ryan is here with us. I will not abandon him either.
Right.
Quick note about Casino Night. Had this been a film, I think with a bigger budget, there's a great sequence that would have been a oneer in the film where they're going around and you're spending little bits of time with all the different characters up to this point. There's different things brewing and churning, and Ryan and Luke are helping set up whatever. It's a really great sequence. Great job. This has nothing to do with Kirsten. I was very impressed with it.
No, The Gamble is one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah. And it was reminiscent of Snake Eyes, the Brian De Palma film with Nick Cage, which very famously starts with like a 20-minute oneer, I think, which takes place in a casino. So
okay.
I was wondering if this was a nod to Snake Eyes. Maybe not. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to put my movie guy.
That's
glasses
okay.
away.
He's back. But also in that episode with Kirsten, we see her and Ryan bond a little bit more because he takes interest in the fact that she works in real estate.
Yep.
And then we find out that Ryan worked in construction.
Yep.
And Kirsten's like, oh, wow, Seth never is interested in what I do. I've tried to explain it to him. And so even when they come home after setting up, she says, oh, you could tour and go through you could see a lot of homes and developments. And he was like, I would love that.
Yeah.
And so right there, we're like, okay, we're looking at Ryan in a different light through Kirsten's eyes.
There's this, it's like such a thin thread throughout the first season. And I'm very curious to see if it gets dropped in the future or if it gets played up in the future. When Sandy first meets Ryan and he's like, what are you doing here? Ryan goes on this like big spiel about Social Security running out. And so we're supposed to think, oh, okay, this kid he's a ruffian, but he's like a genius, right?
He's smart.
Like Ryan is supposed to be super smart. He's street smart and he's book smart. Wow, look at all these facts and figures he's spouting out, right? And so, but it doesn't always come back around. So I'm curious to see if that kind of plays out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Kirsten, she's so middle of the road in so much of what happens. She works for Caleb's company. When Sandy's firm is suing Caleb's company, she almost doesn't think twice about giving him the evidence. Like, it's not, again, like, I feel like this would have been dragged out so much longer and you would have seen all of this turmoil in her and what do I do? And then she almost doesn't, it could literally mean her job.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, yeah.
Well, she knows it's wrong, but she has to
Yeah.
do it because she has that heart
Right.
and
Yeah.
conscious of it. That makes her not Caleb.
Right. And the other side of that, again, like thinking of her as the middle,
Mhm.
is her sister,
Haley.
where
Nickel.
Haley is all the happy, fun parts of Kirsten and none of Caleb.
But she's also a lot younger.
She is a lot younger, but she's just like the wild variable. And so the way that Kirsten sees Haley, I wonder if that's how Caleb sees Kirsten. She's married this guy. She's married a Jewish guy, which to Caleb is the worst possible thing apparently you can do, which I was like pretty shocked by. He makes some really bad racist jokes.
Caleb is
comments.
the Donald Trump of Orange County.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They say that, don't they?
Yeah.
That's true. They do say that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrible guy. I mean, if I was Jewish and my father-in-law felt I wouldn't let him in my house, you know what I mean? Like, you can't come in here and make racist jokes about me and mean them.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kirsten, she's such a partner to Sandy. You know what I mean? And like Sandy is such a partner to her that whether or not Ryan will stay, that's not played out for very long, you know? And I love that. And I think they see how it's affecting Seth.
For sure.
You know, and like, yes, Ryan's rough, but he's doing good in this house. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's discuss Kirsten and Jimmy.
So when we talked about Marissa, I said Marissa will not grow up to be Julie. Marissa will grow up to be Kirsten, right? And Kirsten, she used to date Jimmy. God, Jimmy. When Sandy and Jimmy are hanging out and
don't you love it?
No.
Even towards the end, you don't love. I love their relationship.
No,
and the Balboa restaurant, the Balboa Lighthouse. Sorry, the Balboa Lighthouse.
Jimmy is the biggest dope in this show, and I kept saying like he's my favorite. He's my favorite. He really might. Luke, I think, is my favorite overall. I think Jimmy is he's such a dope, and he's so flagrant with his like love for Kirsten and his interest in her. If I lived next door to my ex-girlfriend who was married, I would not be anywhere near as involved and like just intimate with her. It's so wild. But again, I can't speak for later seasons. She clearly loves Sandy. She's not interested in Jimmy, but she's still interested in helping Jimmy. And in that way, she's similar to Marissa. Oh, God. When Julie says that Kirsten and Jimmy's prom picture is hanging on their wall.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Also, I'm surprised Julie allowed that.
Well, Julie says she knew when she got together with Jimmy that Jimmy would always love Kirsten more.
Yeah.
And they got together because she got pregnant.
Right.
And where Julie comes from, she said, I was nobody and I never want to go back to that place. So I understand. I don't want to say something bad about Julie. I understand where Jimmy is a path for Julie. And then I understand where Caleb is a path for Julie. You know what I mean? Not necessarily that she's trying to like climb up a ladder. She's just trying to not go to prison or go back to living where she was from. I understand all that. But that's intense, man. Like, when you get married, you don't like burn your prom picture.
No.
But you don't hang it on the wall.
Yeah. I know. And then when Jimmy kisses Kirsten.
Gosh, it's horrible. Yeah.
And then she keeps it from Sandy, and then Sandy finds out through Jimmy.
And you think this is the end. Like this it's all gonna blow up. And Jimmy is just like, Sandy's like,
I honestly think it's like a nod to Tate Donovan for bringing the charm to Jimmy, because I don't know if another person playing Jimmy would have that effect. Like Jimmy is an awful father. He's known as a really bad father, like across media. Like one of the worst TV dads is what they say. All the shit with Kirsten. Well, you don't know what happens, but whatever. But then I'm like, I love Jimbo. I love Jimmy Cooper.
He's a dope. And he really is.
I love Tate Donovan, so
later on when they're working on the restaurant and he's like, I guess I'm not really good with this financial stuff. And Sandy's like, yeah, no. Jimmy feels like a stunted adult. Like, he feels like 17, 18, never really grew up.
Yeah.
It's possible that he didn't really grow up because he's thrown into fatherhood very young and accidentally. And he's just a big idiot. And like when Kirsten is helping him paint, again, I'm like, Kirsten, you're so rich. Just hire someone to paint his apartment. Like, how much could that possibly cost? It's a drop in the bucket to you.
You're helping a friend.
Right. But it's like this show is people of varying levels of toxicity circling each other until an explosion happens. And then this person moves on to this other character, and this character moves on to this other character. So if it's not Jimmy and Julie, it's Jimmy and Kirsten. And then when it's not Jimmy and Kirsten, it's Jimmy and Sandy. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's Julie and Luke. And sometimes the pairings are very weird.
Yeah,
At one point, Sandy is talking to Summer.
Yeah.
Summer's really bummed out. He's like, hey, kid, can I give you some advice or whatever? And I was like, are we, not in a romantic way, but I was like, are we about to see like a Summer Sandy friendship storyline?
Well, he has that with Marissa too.
Blossom? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's cool, you know, but Jimmy is such a dope. I really, when he kissed Kirsten, I was like, run, never have anything to do with him again. No, they don't care.
No.
It's just, it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much of what happens with the parents or the adults really just feels like it just gets swept under the rug. Like even Sandy and Caleb, and Sandy's suing Caleb's company, and then they're just like, come to my wedding.
Right.
And, you know, that Ryan kid, he can be one of the groomsmen. He burned my house down.
I know.
You know, come on.
We're going to go to Vegas for the bachelor
Yeah,
party.
we're all going to go to Vegas, and I'm going to be doing shady business on the side, but let's bring my grandson.
You know, you said something of Caleb being so angry. Well, not angry, but just not approving of Kirsten marrying Sandy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of that, Sandy's mother does not approve of Kirsten.
Sure.
And where she lives and who she stands for, supposedly, right?
Right.
Who her father is.
Yeah.
So we have that flip side too.
I loved that episode. And Kirsten is like all geared for her to just be mean to her. And then she's just not being mean to her. And I also love that Kirsten does not cook.
Uh-huh.
And that it's played for a joke like over and over.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love it, but it's just it's charming to me.
Well, I mean, also, right? Like we're seeing a mother portrayed in a very different way of what we're used to. She's the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. She's not a housewife. She's the one who isn't cooking and cleaning. Mm-hmm. They have Rosa, but like Rosa disappears.
She's
gone.
She's
Rosa who?
Right.
Just like the Cooper's dog, Dusty. Dusty who? Like that dog disappears.
Whoa, I didn't even think about the dog.
Yeah.
That's right.
The dog's gone and Rosa's gone.
Okay.
Probably off together.
Maybe.
Maybe
she's always walking the dog.
Maybe she's always walking the dog. Yeah, but even in the pilot where Ryan's like, I didn't know you type of lawyers made this kind of money. And he said, I don't, but my wife does.
Right. And Jimmy, and again, this is another thing where it's just like, just who cares? It didn't happen. Jimmy says to Sandy, you don't know what it's like to provide for a family?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, that's like a friendship ending thing. Nope, they're just going to be grilling and drinking beers. He's starting a restaurant together. Like, hey, I mean, Sandy, he's such, whatever. Look, I wouldn't start a restaurant with 99% of the people that I know.
I agree.
I would not start one with Jimmy Cooper.
I wouldn't do anything with Jimmy Cooper. Yeah.
That whole meatloaf thing, I was like, okay.
My mom's meatloaf is better.
You're going to serve meatloaf in a restaurant? I don't know if I've ever
2 meatloafs.
Had meatloaf in a restaurant beside maybe a diner.
Yeah.
And guess what I'm now ordering? The meatloaf. But yeah, Kirsten, she's constantly betraying people in favor of Sandy and in favor of Ryan. Not in a bad way. Like I say, betray. And of course we think of that as a bad thing, but she is all, for her family, and I don't care if I lose my job. I don't care if we move. I don't care if I never see my dad again. She's all in on them. And it's great.
But imagine your father marrying Julie Cooper.
No, my
Now
father.
she's Julie Cooper Nickel, who's your stepmother.
Right. My
It's
father
funny.
marrying my best friend who married my ex-boyfriend, whose daughter is dating my legally adopted son.
It's real.
Like,
incestual.
who
in a
is
way.
also having an affair with her own daughter's ex-boyfriend.
Who's marrying.
Now my son's best friend, who went to a Rooney concert together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I can't imagine that. Somehow. Yeah, that seems strange.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, Kirsten?
Yeah, just the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I don't want to be super on the nose about it, but again, it's good writing. Kirsten has a shot at the end where we're seeing this montage of where everybody is, okay? And we've got Marissa locked away in the high tower. We've got Seth on the open seas, right? We got Ryan leaving town. And then we get Kirsten, and she's like folding bed sheets.
She's taking the bed sheets off.
Taking the bed
because
sheets off.
Ryan left.
Right. And she's crying and crying. And again, bringing it back to the first episode, the first thing that she does for Ryan is get him bed sheets. And we know that her sentiment is, how can a mother abandon her child? And she's now experiencing, how can he abandon me?
Ooh.
As she's taking the bed sheets off. That's good writing. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what this is. That's good, you know.
Oh my God.
And it's great. It's a very impactful moment.
Did you cry?
I did not.
You're not emotionally invested yet.
No, I teared up several times throughout the season. More so, I don't know that I like openly cried. Seth leaving was, I think, the most emotionally impactful thing for me for all the reasons that I
Really?
said. Yeah. Yeah.
Seth leaving.
Yeah. He just leaves notes.
I know. That's
I
infuriating.
don't know what those notes say. I don't know that those notes are like, I'm never coming back. You know what I mean? Like,
Is
or,
it because
I'll be here in 2 weeks.
is it because you're a dad and your son leaving? Or is it
No.
you felt sad for him? Like, to me,
where I felt for Seth was as a friend. I know what it's like to have your
I
friend
see.
leave and your world kind of falls
Yeah.
apart. What were you saying?
No, I was going to say, because for me, it's Kirsten in the bed sheets. Like,
Right.
I am crying uncontrollably.
Right.
Uncontrollably. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's great. It's great.
It's so good.
Again, it's a good setup and it's a great payoff.
Yeah.
I never would have seen that coming.
Yeah.
And what I like about this season, as someone who's only seen the first one, is it feels this show could end right where it ends.
Absolutely.
It wraps up. Ryan comes to town, stirs up a bunch of stuff, and then guess what? The thing from out of town, from back where he's from, calls him back to where he's from.
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
And Seth is gone. And you know what I mean? Like, it feels like you could end the story there. It would be very bittersweet, very melancholy, but we don't necessarily need a happy ending to a show that is, again, exposing the dark side of a beautiful place.
Mm.
So, yeah. But yeah, Kirsten, great. Love her so much.
I love it.
Yeah. I wish that this show was Sandy, Kirsten, Marissa, Seth, Luke, Ryan, Summer moving away and like just starting their life somewhere else.
That's such a weird idea.
Just take all of the nice people and remove them from this horrible environment.
So we're not taking Julie or Jimmy
No.
or Caleb.
They can stay, they can live in the
But Jimmy can't survive. We have to take Jimmy.
No.
Oh.
Jimmy doesn't deserve it.
Oh, okay.
If you drew me a line and say who are the good characters and who are the bad characters, Jimmy's a bad character.
Yeah.
He's goofy and we like him.
But he's bad.
Kissing Kirsten, no. Bad. Stealing all those people's money, also really bad.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know.
But again, this show is about people with varying levels of toxicity just circling each other. And Sandy it's the thing of like self-destructive.
Self-destructive.
They're all self-destructive. The worst thing for Sandy to do is be like, oh, let's start a restaurant with Jimmy. And that's what he does.
And it doesn't work out.
And yeah.
Because of Jimmy.
That's true. So anyway, love Kirsten.
Love Kirsten.
She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next week is our last episode.
Yeah.
For season 1.
What an episode to go out on, too.
I can't wait. We're going to be talking about Oliver. Thank you so much for listening to the OC20, a Movie Friends mini-series. If you like what you just heard and are curious about what else we do, visit moviefriendspodcast.com and follow Movie Friends Podcast on all social platforms.